Peace be with you. Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Alan Kiesler, and we're continuing to discuss extraterrestrial spirituality. And today we're going to talk about the chief servants of God. They're given various names like archangels, but the knowledge that we have had in the past is so minuscule compared to the knowledge that we are learning now from extraterrestrials who not only live on other planets and in other star systems, but have traveled for thousands and millions of years from one star system to another. So they know a lot about the different great personalities in our galaxy and also in other galaxies. Or these terms that we use, galaxy and universe, they have different meanings in different contexts. But I just want to talk a little bit about the different categories of the chief servants of God. And I'm sure some of this will be quite surprising, maybe unbelievable to some people, but this is the information that I have learned from extraterrestrial sources. So here we go. Bismillah. So we always begin with the name of God, whether we say it out loud or not, because we need help. We are very fallible, always making mistakes. So in order to ask for protection and guidance, we appeal to the supreme source of everything, the all-powerful, original being, who we call God or Allah, or by many different names. But we ask for guidance, that we don't deviate too much from the truth as we're trying. This is a very, very difficult subject matter, because the main reason it's difficult is because it's so different than what most of us have been taught. All right, so one interesting idea is that the concept of God, or the supreme source of everything, is pretty universal. Our planet, the Earth planet at the present time in the 21st century of the Common Era, is quite unusual in that so many people consider themselves atheists even. They say there is no God. That's because of bad experience, because of so many false concepts of religion and of God. So a lot of people have gotten frustrated and disappointed and angry even, and so they reject any concept of God at all. But the fact of the matter is that almost everywhere, throughout all the universes, material and of course spiritual, people are aware that there is a God or a supreme source of everything. And that God has many, many uncountable numbers of servants. And these servants are of different types. So we're going to talk first about the chief servants of God. All right, so everyone knows that everyone is a servant of God except God. Except Allah, everybody is a servant of that supreme. But, this is the big but, the first servants of God are not ordinary people. They're not even ordinary angels. We're not talking about in our universe. We're not talking about any of the material universes or super universes or whatever you want to call the existence here in this material cosmos, but I'm talking about the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, the original first servant of God is very, very powerful. In fact, the first servant of God, first again, not in terms of time, because we're not talking about creation. We're not talking about a certain time when God began creating. But in eternity, the spiritual world is eternal. It was never created. So all of the residents of the spiritual world, the eternal residents of the spiritual world, were never created. And the first of those residents of the spiritual world after God himself or herself, whichever pronoun you prefer to use, that first servant of God looking outward is, how can I say, very, very powerful. Practically, we can say as powerful as God himself. Now that may come as a shock to some people, but why not? Why should God have only servants who are not so powerful? So the chief of all servants of God must. That is the first point I wanted to make. Now, some time ago, previously, in an earlier class, I talked about something else, which is also very, very difficult because it's a new idea for most of us, that when God looks outward, that's what I've just been talking about, the chief servant of God. But, and this is not really accurate, it's not really quite true, but it's the best way I can think of to talk about it. God also looks inward. So because God is infinite, God not only has an outward and an inward, but has all sorts of directions. But actually, there is no inner or outer or this direction or up or down from God because God encompasses everything. Still, this is a manner of speaking. So, in a manner of speaking, if God looks outward, then the first servant of God, not again first created servant of God, but the first eternal companion of God, you might say, when God looks outward, is this great, all-powerful being. So how can that be? Well, that's the nature of these chief servants of God. Some of them are so powerful that we can only call them all-powerful. They're not all-powerful in the sense that they created or the source of everything, because there's only one source of everything, that is Allah. But these chief, extremely powerful servants of God, nobody in this material world, no material being is anywhere near so powerful. But in the spiritual world, the original servant of God is all-powerful. In every sense except that he is not the, what should I say, the Allah. He's not the God. He's not the original source of everything, but he is the original chief, first servant of God. So that chief servant of God is also more powerful than we can conceive. Now, looking inward, again I repeat, this is just a manner of speaking. It's not something that we really can understand ourselves, but it's the best I can do to try to explain this, which this is how I would explain to me. So when God looks inward, God has another different aspect of servants, another different type of servants. These servants are, what can I say? I really don't know how to describe it, but they are also extremely powerful, but they're a different category of servant. That is, the servants, when God looks outward, they're like powerful. Their chief characteristic, not chief characteristic, but one of their chief characteristics is power, and also mercy, and kindness and love. So many different characteristics. But the difference on the inner aspects is that those servants of God, although they're also extremely powerful, more powerful than we can conceive, their main characteristic is their sweetness and tenderness and mercy. And they don't display their power the way the chief servants on the external. Again, it's a misnomer, but I can't think of any other way to say it. So this is a very, very important first point, that there are two categories of servants of God. One is what I'm calling the outer, when God looks outward, and their characteristic is their power and glory, greatness. And then the servants on the inner aspect of God are sweet, kind, tender, merciful. And although they are also, from our perspective, unlimitedly powerful, but they don't display that power, or their power is displayed in their kindness and tenderness. Okay, so this is the first class. I'm going to talk a lot. Actually, last week also I talked about the chief servants of God in our universe, or galaxy, in our part of the cosmos, or in our part of the creation, namely the sub-creator of our universe, who I explained that Lord Jesus Christ, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, was an appearance on this planet of that great personality. And I also explained that along with that sub-creator who is sent by God, by Allah, to this part of the cosmos to create this universe, along with him always comes two people, one who's feminine, and she is spirit, of course, but is categorized as feminine, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. Just like there's the external and internal sides or aspect of God, similarly, and the external is masculine and the internal is feminine. Similarly, the two co-creators, really, because they work together, of this cosmos or material universe or galaxy, this part of the creation that we're living in, the first two are like male and female. Again, I said last week, not exactly like husband and wife. One is displaying power and glory, and the other is displaying sinners. In addition to these two personalities who come and are the co-creators of this universe, there also comes a supreme, sublime, supernal personality who is like an advisor to them. And this personality is unique. He is, what can I say? He is the light, the original light of our universe. He is, or I couldn't say he only, she also, because he is usually called he, but he exhibits less of the glory and power that the co-creator, the sub-creator and co-creator do, but he also more of the internal kindness and sweetness, mercy. And that personality is therefore sometimes designated as hermaphroditic, not masculine or feminine, but in any case, extremely powerful. In some senses, really superior to the sub-creator, superior to the co-creators, coming as their advisor. And as I explained last week, in my understanding, that supernal personality appeared on this planet as Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The holy prophet of Islam was not an ordinary human being. He was a human being, 100% a human being, just like Jesus Christ was also 100% a human being. But he was an appearance on earth of that supernal personality, the third of those persons who are sent to this part of the universe for its creation and origination. Okay, so those are the three chief personalities that I spoke about last week of our universe or our part of the cosmos. And I've also now spoken about three original personalities. That is Allah, the supreme God, the source of everything, and his chief powerful servant, who is, we can only say, beyond our ability to conceive of his power. Therefore I say he's all-powerful, unlimitedly powerful. And thirdly, the inner aspect of God, the chief servant of God on the inner plane, who, along with all the other servants on the inner plane, they are more characterized by kindness, tenderness, mercy, sweetness, than by the power and glory of the external aspect. Of course, I'm talking about the spiritual world right now, the inner and outer aspects of the spiritual world, looking outward or inward. There's the supreme source of everything, Allah or God's name, looks outward or inward. That's the only way I could think of to describe it. Okay, so that's a little bit, this is a big topic, and I think I'm going to take quite a few weeks talking about it. But since last week I had spoken about the three chief personalities of our part of the cosmos, I decided to start talking about the chief personalities of the spiritual world. All right, let's see if we have any good questions. I hope we have some questions about the topic rather than about other things. Ijaz Mirani says, please, sir, remember Kashmir in your prayers. Actually, I am very much remembering Kashmir, and I'm also thankful. Most people are very, very disturbed and upset in one way or another about what's happening in Kashmir. But as I've said before, I take it as a sign that uh, the Ghazwa-e-Hind is reaching a climax. As I've said, the Ghazwa-e-Hind has already been going on for some time, in my understanding, and it is more a spiritual war. It is more propaganda or uh, publicity or media war than a material or weapon-like war. Um, but it is a spiritual war which is going on for some time now, and this definitely is an indication that that uh, great spiritual conflict is coming to a head, and we should be happy because what it really means is that now the victory of the forces of good is coming closer. Don't worry, Kashmir will be given its freedom, and we can all pray that the freedom of Kashmir will come soon, and it will come in a way that is not too much suffering, because always when things like this happen, there is suffering, of course, but we will pray that the suffering may be minimized, and we will pray for the mercy of God to make this a not only quick, but make it a loving transformation. The secret really is the people of Pakistan and Khalistan and Kashmir will all become so loving amongst each other that the people of India will become astonished. They will say, that's what we want. We don't want this fighting and repressing. And then when the Indian people find out what's really going on in Kashmir, they will be horrified and they will stop it. And they will give freedom to Kashmir. So, yes, I'm praying daily for Kashmir. All right, let's see. I want to not talk about another question about Pakistan and Indian war is coming days. Pakistan and Indian war has been going on for quite a long time already. And it's not a hot military conflict, except we did have the Balakot attack and the response just for a short time, but the war has been going on for years, decades, and it's coming to a head now. So let us all pray that that war will be a war of beauty, love, kindness, sweetness, and not a war of power and glory and military might. But we already know the conclusion. I at least know the conclusion. I was told more than 20 years ago what will happen. Kashmir will be given its freedom, and India and Pakistan will work cooperatively to protect Kashmiri's freedom. And India and Pakistan will come together in love and trust. Seems impossible? Okay, just wait and see. Let us all pray for that. What's wrong? All right, Muhammad Iftizah is going on. It's strange to talk about Pakistan to sit in America. You can't understand Pakistanis' problems because you're sitting in America. Well, I have been to Pakistan most years since actually from 1947 till 1965. I was in Pakistan, so I think you were in Pakistan then. So I know a lot about Pakistan from that time. And I've gone almost every year to Pakistan since 1980. Every other year, every year. So I was in Pakistan last year, but I was there in 2017, in 2016, in 2014, in 2013, maybe not 2014, 2015, and 2013. So I have been in Pakistan a lot. So, of course, I have many Pakistani friends, and I'm always praying and reading about Pakistan. So maybe I can't understand your problems, but I'll do my best, and I hope to be back within a month or two, inshallah. So Americans have no tensions. They are living a good life and having everything a man can easily. Talks about good hope for any country. You think so? You think Americans have no tensions? I think Americans have more tensions than Pakistanis. Maybe not financial tensions, but a lot of anxiety. People in America are full of anxiety, full of worries. Maybe not about where they will get their food to eat the next day, but so many problems. So don't think Americans are. That's Hollywood's portrayal. American people are always in anxiety. everyone, all over the world, not only in America. And there's very little concept of kindness and friendship and hospitality as there is in Pakistan, for example. All right, well, I did not get any questions about my class, which I've explained is a very, very difficult topic for most people because it's something new and different from what we have been told in the past. We've never been given details, but because of uh, the recent, not recent, it's been going on for thousands of years, but only in the recent past, due to the embargo on knowledge, due to the media blackout, and due to all governments of the world practically, for various reasons, working together to stop knowledge of extraterrestrials. This is something new for us now, to be in contact with extraterrestrials, to learn from extraterrestrial sources things they know, and some older knowledge, and travel widely, not only our galaxy, but to other galaxies, and to the spiritual world also. It is possible to travel to the spiritual world and come back. People may not believe it, but I've done it myself. That's why I'm speaking quite confidently about some of these topics. Um, so this is very, very important knowledge. And it's a huge, just like we've had a huge increase in technology in the last 100 years, especially the last 50 or 70 years. That's coming from extraterrestrial sources. All of these computers and lasers and all of this technology, electronics, came from extraterrestrial sources. So in the same way, spiritual knowledge also, we are now getting a huge input of spiritual knowledge starting in the 20th century, maybe somewhat before that, but basically in the 20th century, this knowledge began coming to human beings, and it's we're very important that we have this opportunity to learn these things. Is much more knowledge, say now, from extraterrestrial sources. You may say angelic sources if you don't want to believe in extraterrestrials. You may say that angels in the past who brought scriptural knowledge to human beings have come again and are doing it again. So that's not false, because many of the high-level extraterrestrials are really angels. That's the only way to describe them in terms of technology, the terminology that we've had in the past. But angels are extraterrestrials. They don't live on this planet. They live in heaven or whatever you want to say. They're from somewhere else, so they're extraterrestrials. So we are fortunate, and we will continue learning more about extraterrestrial spirituality every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in California, at the same time, which is 8 p.m. in Pakistan. We will continue the class, God willing. Thank you all very much. May God protect us all.